Welcome to the stage from Procore, Senior Director Sasha Reed.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Woo! I was like, I don't know if I hear myself. Can you all hear me okay? And on the web as well, those of us joining us virtually as well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Very excited to be here. Appreciate CONEXPO and AGG inviting us to be here today and present to you. And really, this is not just this office or the audience in this room. There are so many of other peers of yours watching us online as well. So we're excited to have them here and on board. Today, I'm going to present to you a little bit of a look at the future. Quite a few speakers have been looking into the future along with you. But specifically, we want to look at the future from the lens of automation and workforce. And I think there's maybe a narrative that pops in your head when you hear automation and how does that impact workforce. But today I'm going to be bringing on stage some experts who are at work of looking at how automation is improving the experience for our workforce, helping businesses maximize what they're getting from the talent that they've hired and invested in. And third, I hope we may push you a little bit to think about automation as more of a necessity in order to truly make sure your businesses are thriving. So just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Sasha Reed. I'm Senior Director of our Industry Insights team. And we specifically call ourselves Industry Transformation because that's what we believe is happening. I have a little over 20 years experience in this industry, started out actually as a specialty contractor. But I'm incredibly passionate about the fact that technology has the ability to fully evolve how construction gets done while preserving the knowledge, the wisdom, and the years of risk aversion that has kept us in business, thriving and dynamic. I'm a firm believer that the two really must come together. So one of the things is Procore created this future state of construction, I'll go back, a future state of construction report, because what we discovered is as we were talking to executives and business leaders, they're so busy running the business and managing the business today. It can sometimes be difficult to find the brain space to have a conversation about, well, what's going to happen in 5 years or 10 years? Not only that, you're hiring individuals within your business to make sure your risk is managed appropriately to keep you in business and profitable. But what we're seeing happen within the industry now requires us to evolve past reactive ways of looking at our business and to actually start to become proactive, to think analytically about what's happening, and maybe to take a step back from the day-to-day business and think at a macro level. So we did that. We went around the globe and talked to over 1,200 business leaders to ask them some questions about the future of construction. And when we set out on this journey, we thought we were going to be hearing about things 10 years in the future. We intentionally wanted to make our audience that we were surveying a little bit uncomfortable with the questions. But surprise was on us. What we discovered is that many leaders did not see this as a 10-year horizon or even a 5-year horizon. Many of them saw this as a 3 to 5 year horizon, with some of them actually doing some of this work today. So what's really top of mind for us in this report and the conversation we're going to have on stage here today, I want you to keep this context in mind. Everyone in our industry is on a journey of digital maturity, how they're evolving their firms. Each of us has to assess where we are as a business today in order to truly define the delta between where some of these experts say we're going and where we are today, and what is it that's needed in that delta within the business to address us and ensure that your business is ready to meet the demand that is here today, not future demand. We already know what the demand is today. So let me share a little bit of the findings that we heard from your peers as we talked to them. I don't think it's shocking news to anybody in this room that our industry is considered inefficient. Even with the influx of technology, I would dare to say, and I do represent Procore here, but I would dare to say we've almost become less efficient because we have more to grapple with. And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. So what's top of mind for us as a technology partner is how are we looking across the ecosystem of construction to ensure that our technology is connecting as much as possible, creating a singular point of access for as many teams as possible to reduce the cognitive load for them of having to context switch, learn different interfaces. And we're asking a group of individuals who, by just personality and nature and design, our field teams are built for physical, tangible, getting stuff done kind of work. So if we're asking them to context switch, we're literally putting an additional cognitive burden on them in addition to the dangerous deeds, tasks, problem solving that they have to do with the ecosystem that is construction. So when we look at this efficiency, I don't want this to be saying, shame on us, look at how inefficient we are. I want this to be a signal to us. On average, 1 day per week is spent looking for the right data. As we've had more technology introduced to the construction market, that efficiency number hasn't really moved in the direction we thought. So that signals something to us. What is the cost of them having to context switch? How can we integrate this data more effectively so that the field teams have a single point of access or as few points of access as possible to build muscle memory around building with technology? 28% of project time is typically spent on rework. Now, this is personal for me. Having managed projects in the field, I know what it was like to manage a team installing for a full day's work in harsh conditions, and then at 1 a.m. in the morning, getting a message come through saying, oops, we missed this on the drawing. We didn't realize that's where the core drill was. It's actually moving 3 feet. We need you to rip out and reinstall. And so I had to go into the field and look at those installers and say, hey, guys and girls, we did a great job yesterday. I love what you've done. We had no punch. Everything was on me. If it was a punch, it wasn't you. But we just realized that there's a change and we need to take that out. And I will never forget the way that my installers looked at me when I asked them to do this. Because they took pride in getting it right the first time, and it wasn't their fault that it wasn't right. And what I started to learn was that they felt like somebody unseen in some ivory tower of some other, whether it's designer, engineer, a principal, whoever it was, doesn't see them and didn't care enough about them to ensure that the information was correct and verified and validated. And so when we talk about this, there's one piece here that I want to bring in, because I do think this has a major impact to our business that has a human impact, and I want us to keep it in mind because it should be our North Star. Construction currently has the highest rate of male suicide of any industry. And in the US alone, you are 5 times more likely to die by suicide than by all other job site injuries combined. That is absolutely, the laborers in the field are sending us a signal. So our inefficiency from the office to the field, we have data that now tells us we need to do business differently. When we look at the workforce that we're addressing here, 53% of that workforce is expected to retire by 2036. 53%. We already are in a crisis. We're already at a crisis point of not having enough backfills within the industry. Our succession planning is a little bit, I'll say, weak. So if 53% of our current workers are about to retire, we have absolutely got to be thinking 5 years ago how we were going to bring those new individuals on board and recruit into our industry and create the succession plans. Now, if this were the only statistic that we gathered in our research, I think we would have a pretty decent, compelling event to look at doing business differently, but we don't. ABC just released their report and said that in the next 2 years, we need to hire 800,000 new workers. That's hire, train, certify, get them aligned in the business. So we have a quantified number of what we actually need to bring into the business. So that gap has been defined for us. But the thing that I find most challenging, I won't call it alarming, because the talent crisis was the longest crisis to ever hit an industry. We've known about this for quite some time. But the most challenging piece here is the fact FMI just released their new workforce report, and they note that the highest demographic of individuals voluntarily leaving construction are 25 and under. So not only do we have some of our most experienced, the most wise amongst us who know all the ins and outs that you don't find in manuals, you don't get in a classroom, you only get from walking the job site with somebody, that's about to leave. But we also don't have a strong, robust inbound group of individuals who come into our industry fueled up, passionate. They're not built for office jobs. They're built for the work that we do. Yet because we have not quite evolved and digitalized our businesses, we've digitized. We no longer have clipboards and forms. I'm carrying an iPad. This is digital. But if this iPad is not connected to the cloud, where my other collaborators who stand behind me as I stand here in front of you, making sure I have the information I have and I need to do this talk with you now, then I might as well have a clipboard in my hand. We have digitized, but we have not digitalized. So this talk today is going to be very, very keen on helping you understand how you should be looking at the factors of the business that need to evolve. So what we're going to talk about today is moving from manual methods to predictive insights. One of my favorite humans in the construction industry is from Rogers O'Brien, and his name is Todd Wynn. And I remember when he said to me, Sasha, we have to stop being firefighters, and we have to start being smoke detectors. And I thought that was so wise. I don't know about you, but I started this industry because I like building things. I like solving hard problems. I don't want a job where I just have to do things rotely one after another. I like being challenged. I get up in the morning liking being challenged. But what I didn't care for was some of the comments that I received in the field from my male colleagues. What I didn't like was when things were not necessarily coordinated well enough and we had to redo that work. And what I didn't care for was how manual everything was. I am excited to bring out these speakers here to share this with you, because the good news is the way that you all build is evolving and you are in the driver's seat. Software is not eating the world. You are in the driver's seat, and we're going to demonstrate that to you. So final thing from our survey, we heard from 55% of those that we surveyed believe that automation will disrupt the industry in the next 5 years. My goal, as I stand before you here today, and we're about to have this conversation, is to make sure that that number is at 95 plus, if I were to ask each of you in the room today. And don't bull bleep me, be honest. But I want to see if that's the number, and we can have a conversation afterwards if you want to challenge me, because I'm passionate about getting us to that number. So with that, I would like to introduce our panelists, Laurent, Jean, and John, to come out on stage and to join me. Please, round of applause. Good. Thanks, Jean. Thanks, Laurent. Good. These are the stars of the show today. These are the stars. I'm so excited. We've had a chance to meet a few times in preparation for this talk, and I've been using as much self-restraint as I can, because there's nothing that I've wanted to do more than just absolutely geek out and say, oh yes, that's right, we've been watching this trend, and you're actually bringing it to life. How is it going? What is working? Oh, what about this? But we only have 31 minutes here today. So it is not an impossible task, and I think each of us are up for the task of having this conversation. So I want to kick off and give you an opportunity one by one to actually introduce yourself, your title, and just give us a synopsis of the work that you do for your company. Laurent?
Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. It's a pleasure. I'm Laurent Hautefeuille, the COO of Bedrock Robotics. Bedrock Robotics is very much in a mission to automate heavy specialized machinery. We are starting with construction and excavators, And the goal is to provide like a solution that fully automate all the workflow and expand to other industries as we grow, quarries, mining, forestry. And this is a fantastic mission. I've been working for the last year on that. It's a new company, and I lead operation commercialization for the company. Great to be here.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. Gene.
Hi, Gene Hodge, Vice President of Innovation for Mortenson. Been with the company for over 20 years. We're a general contractor in the data center, commercial, and renewable energy space. Excited to be here.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. John Mongan with United Rentals. United Rentals is the world's largest equipment rental company, and I lead our advanced solutions team. So essentially our innovation group, where we partner with tech leaders like Procore and Bedrock to help us better serve customers like Mortenson.
Excellent. I believe it was 2013, Deloitte said that the future of business are ecosystems. And I don't think we have a better example of that than construction. So maybe 13 years later is a little late, but here we are. Gene, I want to start with you. You're currently doing a lot with Mortenson around automation, AI, et cetera. I want to start with the robotics side of this. What are you excited about that you're seeing in the business and on the job site that you're looking to implement through automation?
Yeah, one of the things I would say, so from an innovation standpoint, we're really focused on making the work in the field easier. So we're going out to the field, we're understanding from our team members what's hard, what's difficult, what do you not want to be doing, and then we're involving them with the actual development of the innovation. And so what I'm really excited about is we're seeing a really strong pull from our team saying, can you develop this? Can you develop this? This isn't working as well as I'd like it to be, and that engagement is really accelerating it for us.
Yeah, and when we think about kind of automation and autonomous vehicles, autonomy, how are you defining that autonomy in relation to the field?
So to get to full autonomy, like Bedrock is doing, is a significant effort. And so we're starting with what are steps that we could automate or semi-automate? So maybe there's an operator working alongside a piece of equipment, and instead of them pulling 500 pounds of MV cable, the equipment is pulling it and they're guiding it. And so we're trying to bring people along with that and move semi-autonomous towards full autonomy like your team's working on.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's I know it's one of your steps, and for those of you who have individuals who are doing the type of work Gene's doing, you may or may not think of this, but it'd be great if you could clue us into what is your criteria for a partner, because there's a lot of VC money coming into the industry. There are a lot of technology companies with very slick sales decks. What is it that you use as criteria to pick your partners?
I would say the single biggest thing is, are you willing to get out in the field, understand the process, understand the challenges, and allow us to be a design partner to look alongside you to develop a solution that actually works? And I think your comment around the ecosystem, I think about, we had a work session earlier this week where we were talking about things working in concert, and it's great to have one robot, but if you don't understand the whole process and how that fits in and integrates to make it better, we're not going to get anywhere.
So I think that kind of leads us, Laurent, I want to ask a question of you, because part of that is Mortenson as a business has been investing ahead in this area. They have a CFO who they brought in who was actually not from construction, but from another industry, was familiar with working with ERPs, had done a few ERP swap outs, was still alive. That's really amazing. I think this was her third that she did. So there was a ongoing work that the business had done to make sure you're ready. So Laurent, when you're coming in now, looking at construction, what signals or signs are you seeing about the autonomous readiness of construction?
Yeah, I mean, the autonomy readiness is absolutely here. Like the pool that we're getting from partners from, Mortenson, like subcontractors, general contractors, owners, developers, hyperscalers, like they want it and they want it now. I mean, my last 10 years, I was actually, so I built a business called Uber Freight. It was a trucking business, went from 0 to $1 billion of revenue in less than 3 years. The pool from trucking was less than what I'm seeing here. So It's a massive, massive, massive pool. And why is that? I mean, why are we seeing so much pool across every stakeholder? It's we had a session before, like with Boris and the AWS team. Like, first of all, there's a labor challenge, right? The labor shortage is real. Like GC, subcontract don't find skilled labor, and that is a very, very acute pain point. And second, autonomy is going to bring so much more value than just labor. It's going to add safety. Safety is critical. You look at the safety record in the industry, it's the deadliest job in the US, right? Even worse than trucking. So on top of that, it's going to help to really be more predictable. When you bid for a job, you know exactly the productivity of your machine. So that's going to help you to win more bids, to accelerate your business. And so the dimension of value are across the board. You're getting real-time progress on a job site. You know exactly how many cubic yards you've moved in real time, which is frankly like really, really valuable for customers. So we're seeing the pool. And then when I have conversation, when I on the job site, you know, when I'm in the trader meeting like partners, I don't have to convince that technology is going to work. Now you've got like robotaxi on the road. You have Waymo that drove like 200 million driverless miles across 10 cities, going to 15, going from US to Japan to UK. So people have been in a car. People have seen that technology can be there. So the question is not like, is it going to happen? It's like, how fast can you do it? How fast can you go from excavator to wheel loaders to bulldozers? So that is the pool I'm getting. And frankly, it's fantastic. So the conversation we have is not about, do we want it? Yes. How fast do you want it? We want it now. How are we going to change? How are we going to make that technology to be adopted by our labor, by our operators, by the superintendent, by the PM? So the most relevant conversation that I find is really about like change management and working with the team, working with the workforce to embrace that technology from the field. And real success for us is very much not just getting the CEO excited, the management, it's getting labor, like people on the ground, like the field, the crew, to really want that technology to augment what they can do, to be safer on the job site. So it's an incredible pool. I've never seen that. And it's a blessing because people are getting us. We come from technology. We are technologists, and we are learning. We are learning from you. We are learning from the industry and the level of energy. And you know, like people are generous for their time. They let us in their job site, doing data collection, working with their crew. So it's a fantastic pool.
I will say that 53% number that I put up there of retiring by 2036, it's important to keep in mind, just because you can't physically be on the job site does not mean that there isn't incredibly intense value for companies like what Laurent is speaking to here. There's knowledge, wisdom, practical experience from those leaders that we would love to harness. And we think of the talk around AI and large language models. Imagine if your models were taught and your agents were taught on that wisdom and that knowledge. One thing that you were talking about, Laurent, that I want to bring up because it may be a new concept for you, maybe not, maybe just me, but this idea of intelligent autonomous vehicles. I understand each word singularly, but what is that concept, and what is that concept you're applying to construction?
I mean, it's like, you know, robotics changed quite a bit over the last 5-10 years. It went from a very rule-based engineering where, like, you know, you had to code every single act to something that we call physical AI, but those are like end-to-end machine learning model where we train our models with like thousands of hours that we collect from human operators in construction job sites from our partner. That data is training our model to behave, to imitate, you know, like what a great human operator will be doing, so that you can generalize. You can, you know, without writing a line of code, you can teach the model how to curl a bucket, how to load a truck efficiently, how to make a good scoop, how to move the tracks, how to handle like a big, you know, like a boulder that you would hit when you excavate. So you're learning the model, like how the physics of excavation works. So it's a very, very innovative way to do it, and it's fantastic because it enables the machine to do the work safely and to expand the scope of that work, like as we keep learning in the physical world. So that's a big change. Obviously, a lot of change happen in compute, in sensors. Now you have automotive grade sensors that are like, you know, thanks to the automotive industry, it's ruggedized. You can put it like support the dust, the heat. And so the cost curve also like helps dramatically so that you can adopt the technology because it's very affordable, right? And finally, the last thing that we're bringing at Bedrock, we retrofit, meaning that you don't need to buy a new machine. You don't need to spend like $500,000 to buy a new excavator. You can go with your existing modern excavator and have us spend a couple of hours on a job site, upfit the machine, and that machine is ready, autonomous ready with the compute, the sensor, the camera, LiDAR, and ready to go and start to run autonomously. So that's a big change.
Really big change. Thank you for explaining it, because I think I want to make sure everyone's grasping what infrastructure is needed and what the benefit is going to be. But I do want to thank you on behalf of all of construction. We do not like being the first to try something new, but we absolutely want to be the second. So thank you to Uber and those technology companies for doing that work and bringing that cost down, because now that works within our business model. Gene, I want to come back to you because there's a lot that Mortenson is doing around AI and agents. So innovation for you is not just happening in the dirt. There's also some things that you're doing with Procore Assist, Data Grid, really looking at that automation of flow of information between the field and the trailer. Talk us through what some of that looks like.
Yeah, we've been working with Procore on the Procore Assist for about a year and Data Grid for about a year and a half. And so when the acquisition came together, we're actually really excited about what that's going to do to allow us to accelerate and deploy agents. I'd say if I look across our company, our team members have developed about 450 agents. They're not being used widely at scale. A lot of the issue is because the data is not interconnected. It's not in a location where we can get answers to all of the different questions that we have. We have data siloed in scheduling and Procore and estimating. And so we've been doing a lot of work over the last couple of years to get that all into one common environment. And we're really starting to see that accelerate with the addition of Data Grid within Procore. I did want to touch on a point you made, Laurent. You're excited about autonomous excavators. I'm super excited about autonomous excavators, but you skipped over a point of data collection. I mean, you hit on it, but for us, there's as much, if not more, value in just the data. And so if you're thinking autonomy is 3 years out, it's 5 years out, it's a ways out, I think we should all be thinking about how do we get real good fidelity of data that allows us to figure out, like, what's the gap to perfect? How do we get better? How do we make the work easier? And that's real, and right now we can be doing that.
And I think that's actually a very good segue to John. And John, we're so excited. The timeliness of your appearing on stage with us is great because we have just announced the integration with UA's telematics integration with Procore. So I want to ask you from this standpoint, how is or why is having rented equipment data versus owned equipment data valuable for the business?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've heard from customers like Gene for a long time how important it is to have actionable, real-time and accurate equipment data to run a productive job site. And so we've invested in telematics, comprehensive coverage on our equipment for a long time. But I think this new industry-first partnership with Procore lets us combine that up in a system that many of our largest and best customers are already using to plan their projects and to work day to day. And so now they can see really a complete picture of equipment they rent, equipment they own, all in one place, and tie that in with project planning to try to be more efficient. So we're excited about that.
And this is something we talked about backstage before coming out, was this idea of the data is so valuable and important, because when I talked about firefighter versus smoke detector, construction by design and how contracts are laid out are incentivized really to look project to project, just to make sure a project gets done, completed, owner's happy, we're getting repeat business. But the shift that we're seeing, so if we're going to really harness the innovations coming from organizations like Uber and Waymo and bring them to the field and bring some of this productivity benefit to help us work with the labor we have better, there really is an infrastructure within the business that has to be there. So when we're thinking about this data, this is actually allowing contractors to think more portfolio of their business as a portfolio versus a reactive project over project idea with no valuable lessons being carried over. If they are, it's lore. You know, one job may go to another job site. Back in the day, I'd interviewed a project team on the Daytona Speedway project, and they were doing mentorship. They were doing from the new PEs to the seasoned superintendents, and they were doing mentorships there. They were also having past projects come and tell them what they did, what worked. But we need this to happen seamlessly behind the scenes. So Gene, for you, when you're thinking about your CFO was brought on board, your ERP's evolving, how has that infrastructure of the business really changed to maximize some of this new integrated data you're getting access to?
I want to go back to when you opened and you said, I think you said 29% of schedules is spent on rework, and the challenge and the opportunity is none of that is generally visible. Yes, you could have a huge quality event, huge safety event where it's clear, but most of it is just built-in buffer, slack, waste time in our schedules. And so what systems like what you're just rolled out and what you're working on allows us to get true visibility to when things are stopping. If you go into If you go into a factory and an assembly line and look at the work, it's immediately visible when there's an issue. In a construction site, we build in all these gaps and buffers. And so being able to generate the data so we can see what happened exactly there, how do we prevent it from replicating, how do we make the next project better, how do we make all of our project better is where we're really focused on right now.
And John, so in that vein, I always say that the devil's in the details, and in construction, profit lives where opacity lives. Mm-hmm. It's very important to remember that. But as you're looking at this and as cases are evolving, what business case do you see coming forward of looking at moving from passive equipment management to more predictive planning?
I think that's one of the things I'm really excited about with this integration is tying knowledge of where the equipment is on the job site. Is it being used with the schedule and planning? So that's going to let our customers get ahead of their equipment needs instead of being reactive. What do I have on site that day? Lets them do better planning. You talked about the labor shortages earlier. The labor that we do have on the job site, we need to make sure that the equipment is there and ready for them to use on that day to keep them as productive as possible. And so I think tying that in with the schedule is going to help us better serve our customers and make the industry more productive.
And now, Gene, also with you, we're talking about that intelligence, kind of looking at the mechanics of the work and the devil's in the details, but thinking about the intelligence overall, beyond just tracking, how are you looking at this information informing Mortenson's buy versus rent decisions, for instance?
Well, we're talking real time because this is very new that this is being developed, but we are constantly looking at what percentage do we want to own of the different parts of our fleet and what do we want to rent. So more data is only going to be helpful in making better decisions there.
And Laurent, from your side, where do you envision this kind of shift from project viewing planning into portfolio planning? Are there lessons learned that you're pulling forward from what you were doing with Waymo that you're looking for construction to gain some insights on?
Yeah, I think you start, today we start at the task level, right? Like how you're gonna do a mass excavation project and you plan for that specific task. As you start fast forwarding, you're gonna have you're gonna have orchestration of many autonomous equipment on the field. So you can start to really start thinking about asset allocation, planning, how many pieces of yellow iron do I need for that job? How can I really optimize? Because you remove a lot of constraint, right? You can start doing like a night shift operation, right? Because you don't have issues finding labor for it. You have a higher safety, so you can actually run the site. So I think, as you fast forward the next 3 years, you're really going to have zoom out and you have planning of the overall construction projects and not just the task. So
yeah, and a lot of this, I've had a chance to speak to Heathrow Airport, who is about to do a brand new runway project, massive horizontal project. And there's a woman within the project team who surveyed all of their laborers as they were leaving the last project, saying, if we were to do a new project, what would you need from us in order to sign up and say you wanted to bid on our job again? And they said, we need flex time, because it's not just women who have to take care of children. They now have aging parents that they have to consider. So men and women are being more of a caretaker role. And so they instituted and completely shift their double workforce shifts to accommodate that. And they had so many of their trade partners thank them for that, because they felt seen and they recognized the business can move around you. You are our talent. You are our greatest asset to make sure we deliver. So I think things like that really evolving the business. But the other side of this coin is a conversation that AI is going to replace all of our jobs. I don't know about you, but that's pretty far off the distant future, but it does help me. Far more intelligent when I'm putting my thoughts together than I was prior. But Gene, for you from the Mortenson side, how is the field reacting? Are you seeing some anxiety around that idea of this autonomous vehicles are replacing us, or are you seeing some excitement?
I'm seeing a ton of excitement. Our customers want us to build our projects faster at a lower cost. Our team members want to win every day. Everybody's in construction because you want to accomplish things, you want to move the ball, you want to feel like you got things done, and our teams want to, anything that's going to make them move faster is going to be more projects for us, it's more opportunity for them. New roles that come up, if you've moved from operating one piece of equipment to orchestrating the full operation of maybe 3 or 4 pieces of equipment, the amount you can accomplish in a day. is amazing. I was out on one of our solar sites a few weeks ago, and we've automated the process of distributing piles for the solar installation. Our guys have a leaderboard, and every day they're comparing who did more today and how do I do more tomorrow and what needs to be changed. There's a lot of excitement around that. We feel a lot of pull. There's not a lot of resistance.
And I think that's the headline. If I were to talk to a Forbes or Wall Street Journal reporter right now, I'd say that is the headline. So we need to be communicating to the workforce that we are hiring and that the jobs are evolving. One more thing, Gene, with Mortenson, because I'm familiar with your organization, culture plays a big part of this. So you actually have a culture where people see the innovation as directly impacting their work and them having a direct ability to respond to that. How is culture helping you in that change management piece?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I would say we're very much a people at the center focus. And so I would say what we try and do at Mortenson and where innovation is successful is where innovation is not happening to people, but the people are driving the innovation. And so we're understanding what makes the work easier, what do you want, what would the improvements be, and then they're part of creating that. It's not something that's happening to them. And a lot of the places that we're automating or we're seeing AI's impact are tasks that nobody is getting any joy out of. It's moving material. I don't have to stay up all night completing a conceptual estimate because we've automated that process. It's those sort of things that people are going, wow, this is allowing me to level up. It's allowing me to do more impactful work. It's taking away some of the things that are dreary and I don't like.
And I think that very much needs to be loud and clear, because when we look at that number of 25 and under leaving construction, it's because I can't tell you how many interns I've spoken to who said, when I got hired, I was told to triple entry this data into these 3 systems. And one young gentleman that I had spoken to said, within the first 2 weeks of the job, I had already mapped out for my boss what APIs we could use to allow this to just automatically happen. And I mapped out how we could automate the incoming email process, that everybody has a shared email box because they're manually processing COIs. And so he said, but that firm told me in no short discussion, shut up and do what I've asked you to do. And so he left. But he then found a firm that did say, what ideas do you have? They still had some of the same challenges, but they were open to the idea, the concept of there's a different way to do this, and we want to do it here. Laurent, I want to kind of move over to you in this idea of the future state and the vision. You talk about human in the loop, and this idea of that's evolving over the next 5 years as robotics become more common on site. What is that, and how do you see that having an impact?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, what Gene said, like, you nailed it. I mean, this is all about, like, you know, like the human labor, like, and the pool that you're getting from the field. So human in the loop in the next 5 years, I mean, first of all, like, let's address the elephant in the room. We need to solve the labor, you know, like, reality, right? When you said, like, 800,000, like, workers missing in the next 2 years, I mean, those are projects that we physically can't do if we don't bring robotics, if we don't bring autonomy to the workforce. So think about that, which is going to be the opportunity to automate the repetitive, you know, more dull, dangerous task that people don't want to do anymore. So that's going to be solving the labor reality. And 2, I think this is a really, really amazing opportunity to up-level, you know, like the workforce, the skill, right? You're going to create a new type of job when you're going to have an operator today is managing one machine. In the next 5 years, one operator will manage multiple machines, right? They'll become fleet orchestrator, right? And then you're going to have new type of jobs coming up. You're going to have, you know, autonomy technician. You're going to have autonomy fleet deployments. You're going to have all that ecosystem of jobs that do not exist today. And I'm excited about it. And when you talk to operators, we build the product for them. We are not building a product for someone, a white collar, like in, you know, in there, like the actual product is for the field to be deployed by them. So you have to embrace and work on that product with them, for them. So that's where I was. And then if you think about macro, I think some of you may know about the Jevons paradox, right? In economy, if you bring a technology progress such that a resource become more efficient, what happens is that that resource, in this case, machine, they become more utilized, right? You need more of them and not less. So you're going to have more machines. Those machines are going to be helping to build more construction, to make construction like lower cost and faster. So more construction is going to happen. So you're going to need to hire actually more workers. And so if you think about like horizontal construction, when we start automating those, like yellow iron, you still need to build vertical construction. So you're going to have more job trades that are doing HVAC, plumbing, electrical. So that's the opportunity. I think automation is going to create more jobs, not replace this job.
Does everyone hear that? Loud and clear. You've all been just now commissioned to be repeaters of that message. Please, there's 148,000 people out in that room. Each of you heard it here. You have officially been commissioned to repeat this message. Now, I want to kind of start to wrap up here, and I want to ask the same question of each of you. John, I'm going to start on the end with you because you haven't had a chance to really speak at this point, up to this point here for this conversation, but I want to hear what you have to say about really establishing leadership in this space. When you think about the industry, what's one thing you think the industry needs to start doing in order to look at automation as the standout instead of the exception?
I think it comes down to collaboration and really getting groups of people like are up here on stage today together to work on these problems. It's not going to happen overnight, but deploying, supporting, maintaining, and integrating automation with people on a job site and with how work gets done today is going to require a lot of collaboration and thought together on how do we support that equipment and how do people working around it interact with that equipment. And so I think that sort of collaboration and thought leadership is going to be essential to making that vision a reality.
Agree. Jean, how about for you? Because clearly you're doing more than one thing. But if you were to give advice as to one thing to start off the autonomous journey.
Well, I'm just going to build off of what you said, John. And I think we talked about construction as an ecosystem. It's fragmented. There's tons of trade partners, suppliers involved. And I think we got to realize that we're better together and we need to be transparent. We need to share data. We need to give away our secrets. And I think through that, the whole industry is going to get better.
I think +1 for that. I like to it that if you're like a general contractor or subcontractor in this room and you're like, how do I bring those, like innovation to my company? Think about creating the right incentives for your like crew, for the people on the field. Make sure that you have those incentives, whether it's, like obviously labor, comp, bonuses, incentives so that you work with them. You don't push technology to them, but you really think about like what are the incentives for them to adopt and change and bring that technology to work with them. So incentives are really, really important. And obviously you need training. Once you have, automation happening on the field, you want to make sure that people are trained, they know how to deploy it. So, but incentives would be my probably last, suggestion.
Agreed. And we have heard from organizations who gamify, create leaderboards and are able to capture that data so they can serve that data back to the people doing the work. This is a very competitive industry. I don't think there's any construction job site out here where there isn't some rubbing with each other of like digging on each other and talking smack to each other. We like to be pushed. We like that. So I think that is exactly what we need to do is give the people what they're asking for through data. Please join me in a round of applause to thank our panelists today.
Thanks.
Truly excited by the conversation here. If you want to continue the conversation about Procore's integration with United Rentals, you can come by our booth today. Our entire team there is ready to talk to you about it. But if you want to learn more about what Mortenson's doing or what these panelists have that is going on, Laurent's work, you can also come by the booth and talk to our people, and we can absolutely get you in touch with them so you can share with them. And if you want to download the Future State of Construction report, here's my recommendation. So there's a QR code there where you could actually get to the website to download it. Download it and start doing your own research. From Laurent's standpoint, ask the people where they are, what they want, what they need. And you can leverage this report to start a dialogue with those teams to start that conversation. And second, if these types of conversations are interesting to you, my colleague Chris Langiza and I have a podcast called The Power of Construction, where we are interviewing some of the most innovative business leaders amongst our midst in order to democratize access to the wisdom and knowledge and the bravery, because I will say that, that exists. And so please feel free to tune into that. And with that, thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you to CONEXPO for having us.